Thank you, Liz.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, we had met yesterday already on some of the kind of imminent pressing issues we need to get done for the meeting. And I don't know Robin and Joy and Simon and Sarah and all at all. I guess for me, we're really looking for kind of trying to get the numbers down. And I know, Sarah, you had gotten that. We're looking to assess the what tour and how much that'll cost and the shuttle bus. So trying to get that, but of course we still need kind of final attendance numbers as well, or not final, but draft. And Sarah, I guess in terms of the 7th, I'm curious about the permafrost tunnel and how easy is that to get a tour for, and are there limits to the number of people that can go? Because I had understood with the permafrost tunnel that they don't like a large groups.
That is correct. In my experience, it's not the easiest to get approval to go, but it depends on your coordination with Thrall. My understanding is like that's not my position to ask them to organize this trip to the permafrost tunnel, so I'm not sure what the next steps is for this.
Okay.
And Lynn, wasn't there something else weird with that, with needing like passports and
for permafrost? I don't know. I don't think so, but I do know that they like to limit the people there, and partly for, I think it's related to body warmth, temperature or something. I'm not that, I mean, it's been a while since we worked on that piece. That we had tried to get a tour going a few years back. But of course we still can arrange with Chino Hot Springs as well. And then I had a question.
Okay. I have a suggestion too with the large animal research station. If there's a large group that you can make it worthwhile for a trip, that to me is super interesting. You can see the musk oxes and reindeers, and that is worthwhile to me.
Okay, cool. And what's the official title? Animal research? Is that what you said?
Yes. So LARS, LARS, the Large Animal Research Station.
Okay.
And they only do like a few tours in the winter, but if you can get a group together, I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to accommodate.
Okay. Cool. And then maybe them and that Dina, see if we can get a tour that different alternative energy and that kind of thing that they do there.
But with the permafrost tunnel, I think we should still, because that has been actually mentioned on some of the publicity. So can we still pursue that one to see if it's possible?
Yeah, and again, like I said, I think that might be something where, well, we'll find, I guess we can find out sort of what the limit to that number is, and you know, it could be something where some people are able to go, and you know, but maybe there's a choice, first come, first serve.
I think the priority should be given to the real technical scientists in the group with that interest. So if we can have a subgroup to it, I think that would be the way forward. If it's a limited visit, the more local people probably won't be so interested in going anyway, because it may be available to them if they're scientists, and if they're more community people, they're maybe not so bothered about it in any event from a technical point of view. So if we can have it,
I would argue That's not correct. It's in my experience, and I've lived here for nearly a decade. It's hard to get access to the permafrost tunnel.
Yeah, I feel like it was Fatima or someone else was saying something about security and didn't know that you had to be like a US citizen to go or something. There was something weird said about it at one of the prior meetings.
It's an army installation. It's technically under ERDIC. That's the reason.
So
So I just Googled it. There's a virtual tour. And so when you click the link for the virtual tour, it also says something about arranging tours. I'm going to click around here for a minute while you guys are talking. Okay. So if I look distracted, I'm working.
Awesome. And then,
I know I'm on their site as well, and it says public tours are not available, but
yeah. Right, and I don't know, I guess we'll have to figure out who best to request a tour.
It's an Army Corps installation. Like Sarah said, is there somebody that's going to be coming or one of our members that might have?
It's like Army
They
Corps.
have you, if they have USACE on their email, they might get further than somebody else.
Mm.
I would suggest doing it the formal way, a draft letter with like, can we use NATO like letterhead?
Mhm.
No, you must not use NATO letterheads.
Okay.
I'm just saying it puts a lot more weight if that was like a proper request.
No, you can use the validation of this as a NATO sponsored event, and
Yeah.
they can get in contact, for instance, with me to ratify that as the nominated liaison. You can use the logo, which has been shared already on your correspondence, but you must not under any circumstances offer a letter as if it's a NATO letterhead.
I think we could go into jail or something if we did that. I don't know. That sounds.
They'll come and find you. That's all I would say.
Well, there is, as Sarah said, it does say, sorry, public tours are not available, but it does have ERDC info at
ERDIC.
usace.army.mil and a phone number. It might be worth calling the phone number, which I can drop in the chat, and pursuing it, that just talking to a live human, right? Like, this is who we are. We're not just the run-of-the-mill kindergarten class. And if there's a possibility, how might one suggest we pursue that with NATO logos, not letterhead? And
Well, how about this one? If we can get the right personal contact, then as appointed liaison person, I can then write to that person, copied to whoever finds the contact. And actually, I do have a format authorized by NATO for correspondence. So I can follow it up. Just so if somebody makes the initial contact, says that it's a NATO funded group, and then I can validate that with a follow-up email.
And this might be a distant second, but just off the top of my mind, could we invite somebody from the facility to come and chat with the group as part of the meeting or after hours? Or...
I mean, there's no reason why they can't be part of the program if they've got something valid to talk about in relation to our topic. So they could potentially be a contributor and a participant. But the original idea was that we would tour their laboratory tunnel, and if they're a military establishment, then in some way, and if they want to restrict the numbers of people, then one way to give them comfort is that we could at least restrict that subgroup to those people who are validated through the NATO approval program in receipt of funding to come. So you know, there's a subgroup that will be in receipt of funding because we've authorized them and their names are known to the NATO SPS program.
Mhm.
And I can put that in writing to whoever somebody gives me the contact for.
So could, do we have some volunteers to call the phone number or email? I mean, that would be helpful. I know I'm extremely busy right now with many other things going on.
I can go. I'm always fine with making uh unexpected phone calls. That's good.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I had a question too, just sort of general. So as we're forming the final agenda and speakers, and I know that the afternoons are sort of reserved for maybe problem solving and case studies on developing something here for Alaska, but what with the I'm a little confused about the the relationship of the project that's funded with NREL that seems to be something that this group had been talking about, and this workshop and that intersection, and where the folks from this core group and when they will be sort of looking at this pilot or working on a specific model to develop for Alaska. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Mark, do you want to take the first
might-
half and I'll take the second half on timing?
Yeah.
Sure. We as you know, it's moved slowly, so we were hoping to be further along, but Sarah's doing what she can, and we'll have something in place, I think. So Sarah, you want to take the second half?
Okay, yeah, because I mean, and I know this is completely. I know I missed a few meetings, but the pilot that's at NREL that's being developed, and I know the funding lagged quite a bit from what we had wanted. Is anyone from the core CHAD group involved in the design, or how is that going to work with this meeting, and when that time will be sort of cut out, if so, at the meeting?
I don't think we were planning to have any, but we could though. We didn't have any particular plan about design activities at the in-person meeting yet, partly because the schedule for the whole thing has slid so many times. But for interaction with this group overall, the plan has been to, present and get design feedback as we go. And that's a good question. I think I had anticipated that we would have something to bring to this particular session, but we don't. So maybe Sarah and I can get together and have something for the December conversation.
So it's Lynn, it was more like, did you want to put a slot or session together for the in-person conference, or are you asking what's the involvement of everybody? Because from what me and Margaret have been understanding, it's like we'll come up with initial design, present to this team, get feedback, and continue to reiterate on that process and start building out in March. And the reason why March is because it's too cold to be working outside until then,
Right.
mostly.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused a little bit, and I know the funding and all that kind of thing has kind of changed, sort of evolved, but just for my own sake in my head, it's right now that design is being developed only by NREL, but not anyone like, say, I know originally I think like Nate might have been involved, and Jaime, and but that's not happening. Is that correct? It's just NREL is developing something, and then Chad will be kind of commenting on that design, or?
I guess the input is part of the design. Whatever iteration when we present our initial design, whatever input from this team will be included. That's the hope.
Right. So then we should have a dedicated piece of this workshop for that input. I mean, because originally, I guess back when we had applied, I had thought that this meeting would be primarily the Chad group and other researchers working on a pilot, design, and kind of fleshing that out. So that, and yeah, so I do think we do need like and I don't know, kind of open that up to people, but what would we need for something that would be effective and productive for where we see the design what stage that design will be at. I mean, what do you think would be most effective? Would that be a few hours where we're kind of going through this piece, or, I mean, how?
Then I'm not quite sure where your uncertainty lies. Are you referring to the afternoon session of day 2?
I guess that is my question. Is that afternoon session day 2? Is that what that is? Is that the intention? The NREL pilot design?
You can do it either way. I mean, the provisional program showed Group A and Group B as being quite different for the breakout sessions. The first one, Group A, is listed as build challenge. Participants are assigned to groups to create system designs for given scenarios. Now, in a way, that's a typical approach to like a business training program or something, that actually we might just send groups to either side of the room, and they come back with their ideas, potentially as crazy as you might like, as to how to design a micro AD system or something of that sort. But if you want that's different from a session which is helping the local team problem solve in the build program they already have.
Right.
So what we originally had put on the session list for day 2 afternoon, and Group B is disaster relief. In other words, kind of blue skies thinking about the role of anaerobic digestion in disaster relief, and that I think you should keep, because there will be people that will have an interest in that differently from a more conventional AD situation. If you want a group session specifically to help the local design team, then why not? You can either convert Group A of session 4 to that, or you can add that in separately. But we need still to review the entire program, because as Joy will tell you in a moment, and Joy, by all means, we don't have many people that have responded in a clear way as to confirmation of their presentation title. So we've got all the flexibility you like. Joy, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, that's right. I think there's only a couple of people who have actually confirmed with their titles what they're going to present and when. So there's quite a lot of unknowns. So all those people will be emailed again next week asking for confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get the email sort of compilation that I put together? You did. You're nodding.
I've
Okay,
got
so-
yeah, I think I've got
okay,
everything.
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I
So-
guess, yeah, I mean, I think that just the agenda, I would lead that to the larger Chad group, but it seems to me that working on input for that annual design would be something that we would want to have as a piece in the afternoon session. But again, I don't know where the status will be and whether it makes more sense for NREL just to present what they're doing, or whether that should be either an option or one of the sort of build challenges.
Yeah. So can I just say something really quick? Based on the timeline for the project that we have right now, by March, we should have a design ready. So from January until March, we should have all the input from this team going on. And so I don't think it's a bad idea to have input, but it's a bit late in that design stage. And you're already there in person. So what we could do instead was, because one of the main goals that we have for our design is it's replicable, and that laymen can reproduce our setup in a rural remote community. Would it be interesting or at least fun to partake in building your own with the materials we have at our lab for 2-3 hours?
You mean actually build it, physically build it?
Yep.
Yeah, why not? I'm all for that.
Yeah, I feel like that's more fun. And Margaret, because we were going to build 4 or 5, this is free labor. That's kind of fun. So I think it's more interesting if people are in a group with the materials that we're already going to purchase that's going to be on site, with the design that we're already starting, which is supposed to be in $55 drums. So those materials are easy to get for us. It's because we should by then already have a design. Having input at that late is kind of ridiculous to me, but what we could have input is when people put it together, when people start assembling it, and you can say, hey, this is easier if we do it this way.
Yeah.
In terms of, so I think we should definitely block out 2-3 hours of, like, what would you say, physical, Margaret, what would you call this? A build instead of build challenge, it's a build program.
Okay.
And so this is,
Workshop.
yes, practical workshop. Yeah, I think this will be more fun, more engaging, and gives us on the input on the other half. Can people build this together?
Yeah.
We can, like,
I think we
with
should
that.
I think we should do both. I think the build workshop is a fantastic idea. But you do also need to come back and look at the bigger picture of other locations, and this issue of disaster relief, I think, is something that binds us together to some extent. So I think the build workshop is fantastic, and then come back into the venue, into the actual working room, and just discuss what else you would do, if you like, almost next generation. So absolutely, where do you go from here kind of discussion. So the build workshop is a great idea if we've got the resources to do that.
Do we have a sort of the disaster relief angle? I feel like may not be as clearly marketed to folks as the other parts. So if we're hoping to have a robust part about that, do we want to reach out specifically to that community? And I'm thinking NATO itself might have a distribution list on that.
Well, that's one of the reasons why NATO liked this application, because we just threw in the term disaster relief. And they do like that. So it's a discussion point. It's why the term I use, why blue skies thinking, kind of just crazy idea thinking is the way that actually we should do it, I think. What do you do in 3 or 5 years' time when, or even next week after a volcano has blown up in Iceland or something like that, which may happen any day now. So, could you fly in sanitation units based on biological systems for that after an event? So, we don't know the answer. We can't build it in the lab, but that's what we should be giving some pointers to in our discussion.
Well, yeah, the communities that I think that, I'm most interested in designing for in Alaska are first responders for disasters. I mean, they're not going to have assistance for a few days. So what would they do, and how would the materials and kind of what we're designing even in the lab? I mean, is that something, where they could kind of fashion? I mean, could something be fashioned together without sort of outside assistance, I guess is what would be of interest to, just like at a small scale, individual homes, even disaster relief.
But I don't think you can prejudge that. If we just organize it as a workshop within constraints of the topics, then literally a group has to go away, come up with some thoughts and some interim conclusions, and then somebody has to report back to the room on what was discussed and ideas. It's very much an ideas workshop that was envisaged for that. So I don't think you can be too prescriptive about how that conversation will actually develop.
Yeah, I don't think it should be prescriptive at all. I'm just saying I think that it can flow from the practical building.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think the build workshop would be a fantastic way to do it.
I'm just
Okay,
sort of trying to figure out how to reach out to folks who may have that more emergency response angle. I feel like a lot of the people we have engaged now are more long-term system development thinkers, which is awesome.
Nate's the guy. Nate's very quiet. What do you think? And you're muted.
Hey, hello there. I do not have personal experience with that. Of course, I do love designing and concepts that are off the shelf and modular, and I really like the idea of having the chance to, one, have the free labor to fabricate these multiple units, and maybe in that process figure out the parts of that build that are problematic or could be better. A lot of my personal hobby background is very do-it-yourself sort of things like that, and I want to be more engaged than I have been, Sarah, to be giving some Chad input on the design in January through March, you were saying. But when it comes to having disaster relief, yeah, something that is already basically, I'm thinking like a IKEA level of basic instructions that are numbered and pictured, where the modules are already like, here are the pieces, put it together with minimal tools. That is something that I could see people in a rural environment that only have a little bit of resources to put something like that together. If I think the complexity of it is in the operation of it, where if you're like, well, this is really only sized for this sort of input, right? It gets I think building it is the easier part, and the more challenging part is having people set it up correctly. And maybe if it's just like a batch reactor, it can, once you get it this full, set it aside and then start filling the other one. Or if it's like a plug flow reactor, maybe it's, you just give people a very defined boundary of what they put in there. But I think getting people to operate it and getting the biology doing what you want is always the tricky part, right? And maybe that's something that we figure out more once there's some work being done with NREL.
We've got you leading that workshop now, Nate.
Okay.
Job done.
I am so game for that. Please feel free.
So I have a current contact who's currently at FEMA in Alaska. She's normally doing something else, and I can't remember what that is. But so if I had a description of the vision for the disaster relief work, I could send that over and be like, hey, is this of interest to, the FEMA community broadly? And for folks, that's the Federal Emergency Management Agency, I think, for us on the US side.
I'm not sure that we even need, personally, that aspect of it. I think we can assume communities, at least in Alaska or any of these isolated small communities, will experience either or all of the following: wildfire, flooding, what else? Storm, all of it. They're all going to, so that idea of incorporating, like, okay, how, we're designing for communities will be first response, that either it's going to get flooded out or it's going to get burned. They're going to have to kind of either rebuild, or it's something that's modular, or something that needs to get moved if their communities move or the households move. And so how is the design incorporated for that? How can it be best? How can the materials best be suited for that? All that kind of thing. I don't know if we need FEMA as much as just kind of that thinking that, like Nate was just describing, since Nate's going to be the leader of that session anyway, I think he would be almost more appropriate than FEMA. I don't know how much FEMA will add to what we already know in terms of what the communities are already experiencing and can experience. That's just my thinking.
Okay. Personally, I wouldn't expect to steer the way that discussion goes, but it will find its own route depending on who attends. So it does make sense if there's somebody, whether it be Army or often it's the Air Force that drop things into to disaster areas. So if there's anybody that can be identified that may have a role to play and might be able to attend, then we do need somebody like that. But as to how the discussion itself pans out, I think that's one of the excitements of it. You've no idea actually how people will then report back to the room. It could come up, and hopefully would come up, with some completely left of field ideas which we today wouldn't even think about. It's down to how the conversation goes on the day, and that's always the fun of those things.
Well, yeah, Margaret, you said you have a contact. I have several contacts at FEMA as well, because we do run a job training institute that does first response, that kind of thing, in the communities. So but yeah, you're federal agency, so it's nice to have federal.
In actual fact, can I just say that there was somebody on the chat group who, I can't remember who it is without going back through the list, but they do state themselves as being involved in search and rescue and stuff like that. So I'm not sure who that was.
Well, as I said, I've been working recently, so we're the community that so because the Typhoon Merbok, which we had a typhoon up here last year that was quite destructive for a number of communities. And there's a team that has been out there helping to respond to the community's needs to post disaster recovery. And I have been involved in some of those topics, and I've got a whole email chain. I think they might be the appropriate folks because they have actually done the kinds of things like cleanup and dropping in supplies and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So the state and feds. So I could reach out to them and ask for some, just let them know this workshop's going on and see if someone from the state would be able to attend, or the feds, but someone that lives in the state is what I mean. Because there's a couple of them that are based in Seattle.
Yeah, you got folks, definitely. I'm not. Or if you have folks that you'd rather have inquiry coming from me, I can also do that too.
Yeah, let's see here. I've got well, how about on Friday, Margaret, I'll just maybe I can there's CCU or kind of send out a draft email and see what you think to you and I, and I can find, I gotta find this folks. I can see there's a couple, I'm got a few different emails from them, from the state and Fed, got on a couple different groups that are working with communities out in the Bering, the Norton Sound and kind of Western Alaska for various communities. So
I think, I don't know, this angle seems like it, to me, it would expand the pool of interested people, but I would need a little more of an explanation of what it is to make that pitch to people.
yeah, and so maybe we can, I don't know, develop some sort of elevator speech for what we're looking at for them to, you know, respond to. Anyway, do you think I have the right group of people, at least, that would be kind of those folks that would be helping communities and after disaster?
Okay. Can we ask Joy to show us the spreadsheet as to where we are with the potential participants now? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I haven't got that up yet, but I can.
And Robin, will you remind us, there's minimum numbers, right, to proceed with the conference, or is the conference a guarantee? You wouldn't hold it for 2 people, but.
No, that's the point. That's what Joy,
Yeah.
who works with me, for those of you that have since joined us, is going to just put on screen. We've let me just summarize the answer to the question, and that is that the numbers actually look good, but the data we have in terms of allowing us to do the final budgets, which we discussed as a core group yesterday, the data for that is sadly lacking. And there are also contradictions because people have responded to different things in different ways with different answers. So
All right. Yep. So here we go. So we've only got a few that have put in, well, all these have put in the costs. So what's that? 13, 14. Robin, on your spreadsheet, which I had a look at, all these people here said they'd put in their costs, but I haven't got those.
no.
I got Simone's cost through. So I don't know whether you can do another. I will email them all again, or I don't know whether you want to troll through your emails and see if you can find them.
No, I genuinely, you have everything I have.
Right.
So,
Okay.
So honestly, there's nothing from quite a lot of people
Right.
at this
I,
stage.
that's fine. I shall email them all again, and I'll also, because I don't want to send out lots of emails, I'm going to combine everything that we need on one email, which is why what you sent me through tonight, I'll have a look through. I've just made my own notes as well as a few additions that need to go on, and we'll confirm that, and then I'll send that all out again next week with a high priority sort of thing to get it back in the next couple of weeks, and I will chase if needed.
And I see one of your green points. We got Percy's numbers yesterday or last
yes,
night.
we did. Yep.
So your total number is how far down do you go?
38, because there's a header, so 38 is numbers we're sitting at. Some of these haven't confirmed though. They're just some of these are like interested applicants, so they haven't, confirmed anything yet. They just expressed an interest. So again, everything will go out to those people. But yeah, 38 sitting at.
Right. Now, to answer the question about viability, I would like Lynn to confirm it, but I'm okay with these numbers. Lynn, do you want to comment?
Comment on the number of which numbers exactly did you want me to comment on?
Well, the participation, we've
Yeah.
got a viable
Yeah.
meeting with this number of people. In fact, we can run it with less. I think it's a good number.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think we're good.
And do you think, if anything, that people will add in? You may pick up a few between now and then. Is there a I don't know, due date, drop dead participation date? Could somebody say the week before we're coming in? I mean, they might not be able to participate in some of the after hours things if those are full or have limitations, but
Yeah, they certainly could, as long as they're funding themselves.
yeah, okay.
There has to be a drop dead point at which we will have allocated all the available funds. So if somebody comes along in January and offers us a presentation, which is fantastic, and we would like, but if we haven't got any money left in the allocation, then they either come by paying for themselves or they don't come at all after. And we're very close to that drop dead point because we have to submit the budget in advance. Then NATO sends 80% of the money on the basis of that budget to Zender. And it's that money which is then dispersed to the individuals. That money will only go, assuming those people that were promised money do actually turn up to the event itself, and they'll be paid on receipt of evidence of the expenditure and so on. So nobody gets advance money. We can't do that because we all of us at a committee level retain a liability for that, and Zender in particular needs to be protected. So, I mean, we'll never see any of that money in our local account here, for instance. It will all be with Zender, and it's not fair in any sense that people are seeking money in advance when there's a risk that they won't then turn up. So we as a group have to, certainly as the core group, have to authorize people to receive funding, and then they will get paid in due course for that expenditure at that agreed level. If somebody tells us a flight costs $1,800, but actually it costs $2,200, well, there's not a lot we can do about that. The $400 will have to be at risk by the individual. And that's another reason why we want to get this fixed as soon as possible, not least because flight prices obviously the costs do escalate from here on. But the other thing is we need certainty. So we need people to tell us what money they want, then we approve it, and that's it, as fast as possible now.
Yeah.
So it's quite disappointing that people haven't picked up on that point in responding, because we did have a deadline for when people were to send us their statement of probable costs and then for us to give them an authorization.
And we've passed that deadline.
We've passed it already,
Okay.
so we're only going to push back and say, come on, do it by return, or you get nothing.
Yeah, okay.
But in terms of viability, I think we've got a viable meeting. We've got numbers. We have, if I can just continue to talk, I
Yeah.
talk too much, but
Please.
what I would say is that we've got a few people that we did have on the list that we know have fallen by the way and won't attend. We do have, for instance, one of our Israeli guys that was coming. He cannot attend. We know that for sure. So he's come off the list. I've tried to substitute, but actually the NATO people have already told me that unless he's from an approved country, he cannot come. So what I mean by that is he isn't from a country that was within our prior approval list, even though it's a full NATO member. So he's from Italy, but at the moment, I now can't put him onto the list. So I have actually written, because of the peculiar circumstances of one dropout from Israel, that I've asked for permission to introduce somebody else from a different country, but I'm still waiting to hear. So there are some very clear restrictions from NATO in terms of how we handle the actual funding we've got, but other people can come at their own expense. And after our deadlines, that still remains the position.
Okay. That's fine.
So Joy, were you going to say any more about the actual list and anything else?
Well, we do have a list of people who are willing to present. So we do have, I think, plenty to go on and to fill any slots that are available. I am going to get confirmed titles. But yeah, for any that are missing, I think we will have enough to slot in other people.
You can go ahead and put me down for the practical workshop or whatever, the physical workshop.
Okay, I did make a note of that, so yeah.
Yeah,
And that's on the afternoon, the second day, isn't it, in the afternoon?
I would love that.
Yeah, okay.
One thing I heard was recording notes in the sessions. And clearly the heavy hitting participation that you're getting, we don't want to ask them to be scribes and facilitators. If I can go, which I haven't gotten approval yet, I can only be in one group at a time. Is there any interest or ability, Lynn, in the community of science students, I don't know, people in environmental fields that might, students that might want to come in and help in that way?
For note taking, you're talking about?
For note taking, or otherwise we could get, figure out how to put paper on a wall and people can write down, key points or salient issues.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So let that just tumble around in your head a little bit.
I would definitely be open to volunteering to taking notes as a student.
You're awesome.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I definitely think we want to have flip charts and post-it notes and all those kinds of things, particularly for people that, like to kind of see things visually, which that's something I like as well, to have that as to kind of help with notes.
And of course, there's always the weird AI stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's some great AI transcription services since we'll be recording anyway, that there can be, some of that actually does quite well these days.
Can someone not take photographs of any sort of things which get written down, posters on the wall, and then put that in the chat of anything which gets recorded or upload it later on?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not obliged to do a formal publication, although we can do if we wish. But I think we will have to, I'm sure we will have to provide some sort of summary reporting to NATO in terms of action points, recommendations, stuff like that. So I think you'll find that some of the sessions already have the title Rapporteur against individuals, and it's the job of that person to do a summary list of conclusions and action points. So we will need something along those lines. Students are good. Again, we're focusing on NATO requirements. They like us to include students. So I just wonder if there's any key student as an individual that we think should be here for the future, then we ought to actually go find them and offer them some travel money, for instance. And that might be, you know, a university student that you've come across, any of us.
Well, I mean, Jasmine certainly qualifies as a student because she will be an enrolled student, and she's also from Alaska. And she obviously is very interested.
Yeah, right.
and is, you know, conducting AD work already. So I think
that me and Margaret are trying to get an intern for our project this coming summer. We probably could have someone shortlisted by then to help out.
Okay.
Cool.
And Embry's not on the call, but she's connected with WSU and now through her new job has lots of contacts and just knows people, right? So we'll, Margaret, let's add that to our list to talk to Embry about. Okay. And then the other question I had was, and it might be a hard no, Robin, but the Israeli gentleman or I think it's me, I'm sorry if it's not, Israeli participant or the Italian participant, is there a way to do it virtually? If it's a presentation on a paper, you know, that's easier than having a discussion group, but could tee somebody up for an hour. The time zones worked or they were willing, or is that just not a participation of any stripe is not available to us from those countries or those status?
He can certainly participate online without any problem, but he was very keen to actually join the group face to face. And if we can, I would put it this way, I would not like to prevent him from coming if we can avoid it. So if we have the money, and I think we do because we've got one expensive dropout, which should allow him to come.
That's the Italian representative. Yeah. No,
exactly.
certainly live and in person is always better. I was just thinking, if it's not a heavy lift and it's valuable information, rather than foregoing it, is there another way to include it?
Yeah, I think we should have the intention was to have the capability for virtual presentations.
Okay.
So yes, that's an option, but as an individual, I think he individually would personally benefit from actually coming to the meeting. He's a good academic, and I think he would really be a future member of the group. So that's what I would prefer to see.
Yeah, of course.
And the other issue, actually, it may seem a bit strange, but actually the risk is that if we drop the Israeli guy out and take his budget line of a few thousand out, then we don't have that as free money unless we substitute somebody else in. And it also takes a country out.
Yeah.
And
right.
That's why I want to add another country back in.
Right.
Because with the best will in the world, we're very US heavy, UK heavy. And I think it's nicer to have a broader international group.
Is there a charge for attending virtually?
Not for virtual, no, but there is a charge which is in the email trail for purely commercial people that wish to come. If they're coming physically, then there is a cost for them being there in terms of food, a bit of administration, transportation, stuff like that. So there is an agreed number for that, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was in the email chain that you have. And if the others, let's circulate that number back again. Let's dig it out and send it after this meeting.
On the itinerary as well. Sorry, you've got someone that's meant to be presenting by video link, K Coffee. I've not come across their name again. Is that still current?
I don't actually know that one. Anybody else?
No.
Micro AD and flat pack AD, is it a reality? It's on the first day and it's a delivery by video link. Okay, coffee. No. No, okay. I just thought I'd never come across the name, so just check.
No, I remember the name, but I've no idea who it is.
Right. They've not cropped up in any other correspondence, so I'll
do a search at this end.
Okay.
If there are countries in particular that would be helpful to have people from, that would also be helpful to know. Like, for instance, there are Swedish and Norwegian polar water and wastewater representatives in this very odd military group that I'm tracking. So, if one of those nations would be of particular interest, I could see if I could poke them in particular.
Well, again, if they're not on the existing list of nations as approved by NATO, then we may have trouble. So, but let's contact all of these people. If there are names you wish to forward to now, in this case, particularly to Joy, then please do so. So, Joy, you're receiving all of the Chad emails at chad@targetrenewables.com.
Yep.
Making nest. Look at her. She's laying down and she's nesting. Like a snack process. Sorry, I stepped away. Oh yeah. I have a one-legged chicken that lives in my house. That's kind of funny. And I broke my arm last weekend, my shoulder bone, and jammed my finger. I'm not sure what's more sore, my shoulder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or my jam finger, but I just went to get a bit of ice.
Can we see the chicken?
Oh, we could at the end of the meeting. She's
It's a little treat.
Chicken with one leg.
She lives under my kitchen table during the day and on my couch at night. Anybody want a one-legged chicken? She's quite adorable. I'll bring her to Alaska. I can get her and carry on. Anyway, sorry. I thought I was muted. Okay, so where
I'm
are
not gonna lie, if you bring a chicken, I'm not sure I'll make it out alive.
I have a soft spot. Most people would have done this one in February. I still am holding out hope that there's a chicken rescue lady somewhere crazy enough to take her. That's not me. Okay, so Joy, thank you for the download. We've got lots of things to think about. It sounds like, Margaret, you've got some options of people that you're going to mine in countries. I don't know that I heard any other specific countries. It's interesting that some people can be NATO countries, but still not allowed. So I guess if any of you have any good thoughts about other participants from a country that we don't already have, Robin, should they check in with you, or is there a way to verify that they're even worth pursuing, to not be able to say, oh, sorry, even though you're NATO, you don't really qualify, like the Italian situation?
Everybody can just be in touch, probably best with Joy, but
Okay.
whichever contact, Joy will be the person that responds to it.
Okay. Joy, will you put your contact information in the chat just so we have it? Thank
I
you.
will.
I mean, everybody can copy it to me, but Joy will be the one that takes it forward.
Yeah. And any other thoughts on the conference?
Where are we with the any web-based information?
I have not been able to get a website up to my chagrin. But I can I was working both IARPIC and the EPA Office of Research and Development, both of whom theoretically would be able to provide that for us. But I can try both those again. Too bad we didn't talk about this when Liz was on the call, because she'd be our person. But
Okay, should follow up.
I had a look at how the IARPC website works, and our own chat group is, although it's free to join, it is a members only thing, so you can't Google it and find an individual web page on it. Is that correct?
I understand it. There's sort of two versions. I could put something up anytime, sort of in the group, but yes, it wouldn't be findable by other people. And then there is also a more public facing, more sort of traditional event kind of page option. And that one is the one that we're sort of stalled on. Yeah. I'll set up a little chat with Liz Weinberg and see if we can get further on that.
Yeah, I mean, time is against us in these different ways as well. And if we're restricted ultimately in the number of people that can come on board, we're almost full. So we don't we don't need much more. Well, for instance, if the visit if the visit to the tunnel is restrictive in terms of numbers that can join that, we also had a cap on the number of people within the meeting room itself. And I think we're probably about 10 short of that threshold. And also, if we are restricted by NATO on external country members a little bit, then we're no longer needing broad publicity. It's not as if we're trying to sell something through a web page, but I think it's still no, genuinely though, but I think it's still a good idea if we actually had some form of point where maybe there were downloadable information sheets about how to get there or whatever, which was the original intention, because I think otherwise there's going to be a lot of repetition done at a personal level in the last few weeks. So things like information sheets about how funding might be made available, information about the venue, that sort of stuff. So there is a need for, preferably for a free, easy to access web page, but not a marketing website as such.
And sorry to interject here. We were talking about numbers. Sarah did send me the name of the shuttle that they've used before. So now we can get a quote from them to kind of know where we stand there. Joy, what were those numbers again? I know we said 38, but were some of those virtual? Just to get an idea, just to see how many people the shuttles will hold, just so I know.
I think there was only one that was virtual, definitely.
Okay. So 38 is what we were looking at?
I would probably go with that.
Okay.
Well, I think that depends on what the shuttle's for. If it's shuttling just to NREL each day, then I think there's several local folks that wouldn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. I could look at that list and see who are local. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think
Well,
we need
again, in my what if world, what if we can't get a website up and running? It sounds like a lot of this information would be pulled to put on a website. Can it get compiled in one PDF document that's what do you call it? hyperlink tabs or whatever they're called. We can go to the section, right? You're looking for logistics, lodging logistics, driving logistics, after hours logistics, conference materials, participants. So then Robin, Robin, Joy, Margaret, whoever the contact people aren't answering each individual question. We're sending out the material that would be available on the website. Clunky, but a one-stop shop versus individual questions, because you would probably have on a website for additional information, contact. Some
Yeah.
people just need to talk to somebody. So I don't know if that would be Robin or Zender, somebody from Zender. Margaret, volunteer you.
I'm always happy to assist, but I think sometimes some of these things I'm not allowed to be the lead part.
Okay, any other unchecked boxes on the conference? Again, as you guys have good questions or whatabouts, go ahead and, use the email system that we have to send it out. Better to get a timely answer than to wait. I don't know if there is a meeting. These are early enough. Is there a meeting in December, Margaret? Is that
I
something
was
to talk about?
thinking so because we were gonna look for some design input, but then the third week of the third Wednesday of the month, I'm not actually going to be around. I'll be in Japan. So we could either move it up a week to the 13th or not have it. I don't know if people have strong feelings.
13th might be better with holiday travel or people shutting down the school systems or finals weeks or
Yeah, okay.
So you want to unilaterally change it?
Yeah, I'll unilaterally change it and then also do a little poll, I guess, and see if people.
Okay. All right, great. And then, oh, sorry, I can't remember who your partner in crime was. Sarah? For the engineering for change. You want to talk about that?
Oh, no, that was just an opportunity that came through, and we had of someone from that sort of supporting the group a couple of years ago. I don't know that I'm going to sign up for that myself, but I thought other people might be interested in that sort of free graduate student level engineering help. So I was just sort of saying of possible interest.
Here it is. Is there a link that you want to drop into the chat if people are interested?
There were some links to that. Not. Yeah, I'll stick them in. Let's.
Okay. Anybody have any questions with what that is? We started when we started the group, 3 years ago now. There was a literature review that people were interested in and compiling the literature about the cold, high altitude digestion topics related to this. And so they identified a woman out of University of Colorado, as I recall, Boulder.
Yep.
Who worked on it quite a while, ended up having some not completing it, as I recall,
right,
due to some medical personal issues. But while it was working, it worked well.
Yeah.
Life threw a curveball. It wasn't about the program or her particularly. So something people can avail themselves for your own projects separately from this. Or if anybody has any idea about, it would be great if we could have a student do ... We can talk about that. Looks like there's time to put together a proposal. Is there the date for the activity would be May to September. Is there a proposal date, Margaret? And an application?
You need to put in a request for a fellow by November 22nd, but you can put in a very sketchy project.
Oh, sorry, I see it at the end there. Okay.
And then
so
firm it up.
A week. Okay. Right. All right. Next topic, hot research questions people are investigating. Anything you want to share, questions you have, breakthroughs, funding. I'm looking at you, Robin. You're always on the cutting edge.
Oh, nothing new. I have to say that this event has actually, the main event has actually been taking a lot of my time. So I haven't actually been searching for other funding options at this stage.
Did we ever hear, no, this is the NATO funding that we were waiting about, is a conference, right? We don't have any other funding proposals out there that we've not heard from, right?
There's nothing else active, although
Okay.
Lynn, did you not say that you were applying for funding? There was something that was circulated recently, and I must admit I didn't really react to it, but there was there not something relatively recently about using the package of information that was prepared sometime previously for a different program?
Anybody recall seeing it or sending it?
Yeah, I think that was me. Wait. And I have to even remember what it was, but I did find something that seemed like we could submit, almost resubmit what we had before. I'll have to go back. It's been a while. Yeah, this NATA meeting I didn't think was going to be as much work as it is for us as boss. So, but I'll look back and see what that was.
Thanks, Lynn. All right, anybody else?
Gordon,
Okay, Jasmine or Nate, either one, I saw you pop up.
you can go ahead, Nate.
I never heard anything back on that EREF grant that we were chasing before. We were supposed to hear something in spring, so it's mid-November. So I'm gonna say that one's done. And just a quick update, I am pushing on the Mount Everest biogas project to use the remaining, $27,000 we have or whatever to do a small pilot project up in Gorakshep, Nepal, at about 17,000 feet. And so instead of trying to build some giant installation and get it going and just getting some donor to fund that crazy project, we are trying to have a small bite, operate a pilot, much like we're discussing here. What do you do about a small pilot just during one climbing season, which hopefully would be in, if it's designed next year, in 2025. And I am really hoping to somehow have that staffed by graduate students or something like that. I mean, I'm going to be involved with it, but I can't stay up there for a couple of months. And anyway, I'm still convincing some people that's what we need to spend the end of the money on. But I'm very happy that it's not just kind of permanently not moving at all. So if anybody knows anybody who really wants to go do some unpaid research in Nepal, let me know.
Nate, have you got that as a presentation option for our own meeting in March?
I hadn't thought of it. I mean, it's still very in the works, and I'm actually hoping to ask Dr. Jaime Marti a couple questions to help push things in that direction.
Okay.
This could be a engineering for change participant thing. Could match nicely. I don't know.
Okay. There was an email recently in the same respect of, third-party funding. Somebody did send an email around or make a comment about the likes of the Microsoft trusts and other sources of funding. But again, none of us can approach that if we don't have a real connection and a personal contact to, it's all very well saying, oh, there's such and such a fund or otherwise, but we need to find the real contact and the way into the fund to actually make applications worthwhile rather than just scatter suggestions or discussions on the subject. So if there is a personal contact or a way forward, then we can, all of us as a group, find time to actually make applications for that. But just throwing them out to to trust funds or otherwise at random doesn't help anybody. So was there ever a real suggestion as to what funding might be relevant for an application? It was the Bill Gates Trust that was mentioned previously in an email or something of that sort. But, you know, we all know the Bill Gates Foundation exists. But the question is, how do we approach it? And what's a good route to actually increasing our chance of success? I know nothing about it.
Piper and I are theoretically neighbors of the main office. And I've not been able to get much traction with the Better Toilet people, although I feel like we have some overlap there. One thing that sometimes works is to, you know, invite people to come talk to you. So that could be a way. We could say, would you like to send someone from the Better Toilet group to talk to us at the meeting in...
Do they have a group called Better Toilets?
They do.
Oh, well, that should be the offering to come to the meeting.
They're based in Seattle, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So yeah, sometimes
again,
flattering people, you know, appealing to someone's ego to be like, come tell us what you know. Sometimes that works in my experience, but other people might have other suggestions that are even better.
At least you've made the invitation. You've opened the door, you know,
Yeah.
and if they say, no, that's okay, you know, then you ping them again later. I think that's a good approach. It's one I do. And yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't think my sister-in-law is closely enough connected to that anymore. She used to work for a big nonprofit in Seattle that got a lot of money from Gates. And so let me ask her, I don't know. Why don't you try what you're trying first? And if that doesn't work, do you have a contact? Do you looking for a contact with the Better Toilets people?
I'm looking for one.
Yes,
I
your
have not gotten one.
sister-in-law might have an idea about how to work the channels.
Yeah.
Right. There might be a process piece that she could illuminate for us. And then also, Margaret, if we find somebody, right, or invite, we can always then send the proceedings from the meeting, whatever form, summary, back to them to show that it's a legitimate issue and cause, right? I mean, I'm sure they're hit up every day. Every day I must hear a friend say, the Gates Foundation could just give me a little money.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
so far I
Well,
haven't
they-
been asking for any money. So that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I can't even take any money. Like I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not a charity. I can't be. So anyway.
Yeah. But I think they probably gird themselves that every interaction is a veiled, is a wolf, is a sheep veiled in, a wolf veiled in eventual the ask, right? They probably are they all just wait for it to happen.
Yeah, fair.
My jaded self.
but that's what they're there for. So let's
Well,
just
that's true.
let's just see if we again, it's the personal contact.
Yeah.
There's no point in just sending letters to random people. We've got to find a way of actually follow up. So
Yeah.
we and Lynn is sorry, Lynn, not so easy from you, but what I was saying was that Joy is working with me specifically to help this group take a bit of pressure off me. But Joy, if we've got contacts, we can find a way to do it, can't we? We'll just follow up if at all possible on behalf of the group. So the more ammunition you give us over here, the more chance of success we would have.
Yep, I'll follow up anything that comes through.
Okay. Alex, can I have you hold just a minute? We were asking for funding or feedback, and Jasmine and Nate had something. So Jasmine?
I was just curious if I applied for this engineering for change, would I be able to use, so I can use this organization? Because I need an organization. It says on the application that I'd be working with. So would it be this organization?
It can be. That's what we did last time.
Because I already have, yeah, so I already have a lot of the things that it needs for the questions, application questions, and I would be really open to going for it.
Yeah, I think that this group would need to help you with a project, or if you've got an idea, pitch a project. Right, Margaret? You had the idea before, we need a lit review, so you wrote it up in that vein.
Yeah, exactly. But if Jasmine has something that she wants to do, she can write up and we can create the structure that Jasmine needs if that's
Right.
if that's the way it works.
Who could be a point of contact for Jasmine as she's thinking through it? It really is like 1 week's worth of work. Maybe another meeting, Jasmine, and a couple of emails. Review of a proposal.
I mean, Jasmine can pick what organization I guess she wants to be affiliated with. So I'm a backup, I guess, or I'm a option.
Jasmine, I'm hearing you ask, can this Chad group be your sponsor, right? Is that, did I mishear that?
Yeah.
And I just meant I on behalf of the Chad group can do that, I think.
Okay,
And
awesome.
it's good too, though.
Yeah, so contact Margaret, and I would add Embry in there because she's always got some creative flair too.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, thank you guys.
Okay, great. And then Alex.
Yeah, 3 quick things. As we think about this funding thing that Robin's talking about, sorry I came in late. What are we looking for funding for? Sorry, is it just the general mission of this group or specific research or the event? Or I'm sorry, I just need to get that in mind.
You're creative. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just, my impression of this group is that we're trying to get something done beyond does synthetic feces work in a cold climate digester. I mean, literature review is great, and I'll drop a note in here about the tool that I use. I do think that a networking component is really important. Like when I think about initiatives like this, the sort of bottom-up creation of a network that is the relevant people on a common mission. That's something that I think is important in getting things done. Otherwise, it's like random outsiders and random people doing random things. So I think the network aspect, building something, some amount of prior research maybe to direct the building.
Yeah, I mean, that was what the lit review was in theory for. It was to sort of document, what's known and where the gaps are, and therefore it could be a reference when looking both for, people and research ideas to be like, okay, it's, this temperature range, it's this size, it's, that these are the questions that really aren't yet well covered. So
got it. Okay, so create the network, do the lit review, do the research, and then build the pilots kind of thing.
Yeah, any of those things. All of them.
Yeah.
I think it is actually all of them, because the network is just us lot, and all of us sitting here. It does take time, it costs even money, or at least there's an opportunity cost that we're not doing other things. So, we actually do effectively invest in this ourselves by being here. So there is support for the network needed, however you look at it. There are very specific R&D needs well beyond just literature searching. I mean, Tom Curtis, for instance, at his university lab, he's coming to the end of a funded program. I don't know that he knows where his next funded work funding will come for the work, and that's specifically on the biology, the cryobiology of wastewater and waste treatment systems. So he has a specific funding need. And then in the long term, the Gates Foundation, as an example, and other things like Earthshot and other bigger programs, which are sort of beyond our horizon at the moment, they are dedicated to delivery of green technologies, delivery of environmental benefit programs, and so on. So the delivery, whether it be the sort of jargon of disaster relief or whether it actually is third world investment, effectively, they are the sorts of scales that these bigger trusts and funds could address if they chose to do so. So there are those three levels for sure. So we need friends on board to understand what the journey can be like, and just an application thrown into these sorts of groups. That's why I say you need personal interaction, because otherwise nobody understands what the sort of next 10-year program might be in this area.
Yeah, that's great. I will put something into email about what this looks like, and maybe other people can drop in some things. I think you're right. It takes it all. It requires all of it, like expand the network, do the literature review, including identify all these research needs. Then, there's the pilot projects along with maybe, on parallel track, some of these research things. Yeah. So okay. I'll throw something into an email, and other people can kind of expand on it, just so we have sort of an idea of what kind of funding, what are the things we want funding to do.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks for that, Alex.
I do think we could use a little extra travel money for the workshop. I mean, it just seems like projected now that we whether so that we can make sure that we can fund everyone. Just mentioning that. I don't think we'll need that much more, but well. If anyone has access to a small amount of travel funds or other for a workshop, I think we could probably use that.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's building projects would require probably some travel. Expanding this network, like making it something other than faces on a screen, would be travel. Especially, and I think it would be especially useful to visit projects and visit locales where this stuff might go, right? You need to talk to people and get there and see what the situation is. We have some pictures, and I'm totally enlightened by the pictures. Again, to your point, though, travel would help to really nail it down and connect all the people. What is the situation? Who are the people?
Okay, so looking for an email from Alex.
Oh yeah, you will get, but not right now. I have a 2:15 meeting in a few minutes, but I've got some great notes here. Thank you.
I'm glad we caught you in time. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, not to hijack things, but I will report that there's going to be, I think, 3 or 4 more small-ish for America digesters installed in Vermont, and they're in the northern tier. So we will be looking at pretty cold conditions, lows of -25°C in winter. So thermal management is a thing. And we've encountered problems before with digesters having things freezing. And these projects are engine generators. So there's a lot of heat to be gathered if it's designed ahead. So I'm going to start pushing on that. And I think the thermal design there will maybe inform some of our future work.
Okay.
Who does that work? Is that out of your group?
So these are projects that a developer is pushing and designing with a company out of Germany. It's, significantly milder for where they've built most of their stuff. I think they have one project in Idaho. I'm not sure they're doing any real thermal management, or they're just running an engine generator and using the heat to keep the digester warm. So it's me connecting this digester developer with the people in Vermont that do energy efficiency, so they can design in from ahead of time the heat capture and and the insulation values that would be needed to do something with the heat other than keep the digester warm.
Right, great, thank you.
Yeah, neat.
And it's they're doing them this year, this winter? You said?
No, it'll take a while. I mean, they've got whatever 6 months of permitting. They've got
Okay.
they've got their USDA grants due at the end of the year. Those take a few months. I think, break ground in fall of next year to get a start, and anchor the secure the investment tax credit. So you have to have things started by the end of next year, I think. And so that would be October for us, if we're going to be realistic about the so-called building season.
Okay, we'll put you on the agenda for next fall. All right, thanks, Alex, if you have to run. Anything else? Does this conversation spark any funding opportunities, or if I had a magic wand, I would want funding for? Because Robin goes to sleep at night and figures out where that money comes from, so.
No, if you've got a magic wand, can you just get me a Caribbean island? That would do fine.
Wait, this is high altitude cold. You're going in the wrong direction. Not allowed.
Kate disagrees. No, I'm fine with everything. Thank you. Joy, you and I will talk when? Tomorrow, maybe, just for a catch up. We're in different locations in case you hadn't gathered that.
Yeah, possibly tomorrow evening.
Just
Oh.
send me just try
I'll
me.
send you my availability. I'll do that.
Please
Yeah.
do that.
I will. I'll do that tomorrow afternoon. I'll be
All right.
busy in the morning, but I'll have a bit of time in the afternoon. So I'll send you my availability and comment on your email you sent earlier in the afternoon. And then we can.
Right.
Yeah.
So in case everybody didn't realize, Joy is, I think, is it an ice hockey term? The sweeper at the back. Is that right?
It is a bike term.
Going to collect everything and we're going to get this over the line.
Yeah.
Because I have been, to be perfectly frank, I have been worried over the last few weeks about where we're going with the NATO funding, and just people wobble, they don't commit, and then because they don't commit, everything else starts to wobble. So
Yeah.
Joy's job is to get this pushed forward. I carry the can for all of that, of course. Don't blame Joy, but we want this done. We want all of this connected up so that it happens and that it's a good event. And Joy is there specifically to do this. So any questions, any positive aspects, just get it to us. We'll do it. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Robin, for all your work and sleepless nights over it. Sorry that it's causing everybody more work than anticipated. I mean, that's usually the adage, but sorry that it's actually really happening.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Right, I'll sign off too. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, we're at the
Hey,
end of
thanks,
the
everyone.
agenda if there isn't anything else. Nice to see some regular faces. Nice to see you, Nate. It's been a while. Nice
Yeah,
to
it
meet
has.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And recording off.